Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BTB Movie Club podcast. My name is Tim Larson. We hope you enjoy today's movie discussion. Thanks for listening. My name is Tim Larson, here with some friends to talk about today's movie, Short Term 12 from 2013. This is movie number 220. And normally what I do is kick it off to somebody else to run the show, but I picked this one, so I get to lead this conversation, which is generally not good for anybody. Um, but hey, we're missing one guy, Hilty, but I have a feeling he'll be showing up. I would like to mix things up a little bit today, guys. Normally, the program is I just ask somebody to talk about the movie, and then the next person talks about the movie, and then so on and so on. I would like to start out with a quick lightning round. I'm going to ask you guys a question that you can just answer yes or no to, or you can expound on it if you would like. But I'd like to run the gambit here with all of you guys with a couple of quick questions about short term 12. Question number one: if you didn't have to sacrifice anything and you had the time readily available, would you volunteer to work at a place like this every other Saturday? I will start with Melo. Yes or no? And you can expound on that or just we can move on.
My initial gut reaction. So the first thing I wrote on this whole thing was little instant PTSD from my time as an assistant principal in Dixon. We had a self-contained wing kind of thing. But then when you added the once a week or once every other week, actually, I don't even remember 30 seconds ago, but that changed it. So the answer became yes.
Okay. Listen to this because I know where this is going to go. Dan Sears.
I don't have kids for a reason. I didn't become a teacher for a reason. So the answer is definitely no.
All right. Aaron Lashbrook.
Yes.
Yes. Matt Smith.
Yes.
Mike Wilden.
Yes, I think.
Yes, I think. Hilty's not here. I'm going to say no for him because he's a cold, heartless bastard. I would. I definitely would. Question number two.
Absolutely would. He would be a yes.
Yeah, he is that kind of guy.
So you're calling me a
actually.
cold, heartless bastard?
Kind of.
Number two. So this is specific to the characters. Even if you knew the therapist was right for the long term, would you sneak a toy to Sammy? Even if you knew the therapist was right in the long term and they took away all of his toys, would you sneak a toy to Sammy? Mela?
Probably.
Probably. Dan Sears?
Yes, I would.
Yep. Aaron?
Probably not.
I love that answer.
If
He sounds so
I'd
sad.
want to, I get the empathy, I get everything, but like if it's based in therapeutic methodology and I trust what the guy's trying to do, I would trust his process. I'd hate it.
I love that.
It would kill me.
Poor
That's
little
truth.
kid. Give
That's
him a
truth.
toy.
I like that you're giving the truth. Dan's giving you shit for it, but I like the truth. Matt?
He laid in bed for how many hours crying?
Get over himself. Matt?
I probably would. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a softie.
Mike Wilden?
I think generally that's kind of a tough one. I don't know, but I would kind of lean on what Aaron was kind of saying, like, hey, yeah, if this is rooted in, some real real methods here, but in that specific situation, the kid was laying there for how many days? And just not moving. It's like we gotta do something to get him going, and that's what finally I think kind of got him out of the funk. So and that's situational to me, I think.
Okay, that's fair. I wouldn't even just give him the toy. I would sit and play with him with the toy. And the hell with the therapist. And I checked with Hilty. I texted him earlier, and he said he wouldn't give the kid a toy because he's a cold, heartless bastard. Question number 3. If you worked there, would you think Nate is gonna make it after his first couple of days? Mela?
Is that Rami Malek?
That is Rami Malek's character, Nate, the new guy.
I would. There's definitely going to be some growing pains, but yeah, he was willing and he didn't quit after the first day, so that's a plus.
That is a plus. In the first couple of weeks, he got spit on in his face. watch some fights, all kinds of stuff. Dan, do you think Nate's going to make it?
Yeah, I think his heart's in the right place. I think it takes a little adjusting probably to work in a place like that, and I think he would have adjusted to it and made it.
Nice. Aaron?
Yeah, he'll make it for his summer because it'll look good on his
He did.
LinkedIn profile.
There's a little bit of that going on for sure. Matt?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. He'll last for the temporary period he's there, and then he'll never do it again because he's gonna go and work with more privileged people.
He'll put his tie back on
Yeah.
and take care of his resume. Mike, do you think Nate's going to make it?
I like everybody's point as to why they said yes, but I'm gonna say probably no.
Hmm.
For the movie, for the sake of a movie, yes, because movies are different than real life. But if I saw that all happening in real life, I would guess that he would, at the very least, struggle a lot to make it through, to become a regular part of the place. At least at the beginning, like that, the first half of when he's there. When he starts going through stuff and keeps going, then that's kind of when, like, okay, yeah, he's gonna be fine. But
I'm going to say no because once he starts cleaning that blood off the door after getting spit on the face and the other things, I think he's starting to check out. I don't think you see it. He's still hanging, but I don't think he makes it. And once again, I texted with Hilty, and he said that guy doesn't have a chance. He would get chewed up and spit out by these kids. Um,
Hang on,
I will
since you
go to.
brought him up,
Yep.
I don't know if this is what you wanted out of this, or I was really expecting Rami Malek to have a way bigger part for who he is.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't believe
Same.
he was. I mean, you could have filled that slot with just about anybody.
Yeah.
So
I,
I thought
I
that
wrote
was
that
weird.
down. That's how I found out this movie was 2013 and Bohemian Rhapsody was 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many people knew him in 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Mr. Robot had to have been out, wasn't it?
That's what I was thinking. Is he was
Night at the
working on Mr. Robot.
museum. Night at the museum was what I was thinking because I was like,
I
oh,
keep forgetting he's in
6 or something. Yeah, but like, how popular would have he have been from that?
Right. He's not a draw yet at this point, anyway, like a major draw. Question
Mr.
number.
Robot is what I knew him from, so that's yeah. I don't remember when that started, but yeah.
2015 that started.
Yeah.
So that was after
Yeah.
this.
It makes total sense then.
Okay. Question number 4. If you were working there, would you respect Jaden for the scientific penis drawings or be pissed off about her technicality sarcasm? Mela.
No, I definitely appreciate the fact that she told her not unless this, and then she did exactly
That's
that.
right.
That's yeah.
You
good
respect
on
it. Dan?
I wouldn't be pissed at her. I mean, you got to give the kids some leeway. You can't jump on them all the time about things. So I would let her do what she wanted to do.
I like it. Aaron?
100% respect. I would let her know that her proportions were way off. I mean, they were all giant for no reason.
It's a false expectation for later in life. Yeah.
But no,
That's nice.
I wouldn't have a problem with it at all.
That's good. Good life skills. Matt?
Yeah, that's a okay. You got me. I respect
Yes.
that. I'll
Yes.
keep that in mind next time I say words to you.
Yes. Wilden?
With the sense of humor, absolutely support it.
Yeah, I would too, and I would actually encourage it, and I would draw some penis drawings just to add to them for sure. Checked with Hilty, and he said he'd kick that bitch out of the program. The last question I have before we get into the main thing here: did Lewis kill the goldfish? Melo?
Yes.
Yes. Dan?
Boy, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say no.
No. Okay. Aaron?
No.
No.
I believe him.
Matt?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Wilden?
I'll say no.
I would say yes. This is wiffle ball angst turning into revenge, and I think that kid had it in him. But our opinions. That's what's nice about this movie is you don't get to know that. So here we are to talk about Short Term 12. By the way, Hilty said that kid definitely killed that fish, and he wish he could do it again. So here we are to talk about Short Term 12. I apologize that I did a second Brie Larson movie in a row. Melo pointed this out when I picked it. I thought that I had a sandwich in between them, so I've been going with some real, deep dives with emotional stuff here with some disturbing content. Two picks in a row. I'll lighten it up, I promise, in the near future. Matt, I will go to you first. Your thoughts on short term 12?
All right. I really liked this movie. I watched it twice because we had a week off there. I think it's. I mean, sorry, I'm stumbling over that, but trauma. Talk. Obviously, it's a lot about trauma, and was Grace using the kids' trauma to sort of mask her own. This was her way of sort of like, I'm gonna not think about my trauma because I'm so busy dealing with these other kids' trauma, and how, maybe a little unhealthy that was for her. But obviously in the end she sort of seems like she's got it, on the right track. Um, yeah, it was disturbing. I say I liked it. It was disturbing material, and I have no idea, right? Like by my own admission, I've lived a pretty blessed life. Any trauma I have pales in comparison to what these kids and what Grace has gone through. And even Mason, to a certain degree. I mean, he was a foster kid, so we don't know exactly what kind of trauma he went through. Um, but I like the way the movie portrays sort of the seems realistic type of, these are still kids, despite what situation they came from or trauma they've gone through, they're still kids and you can still reach them. They still want to watch cartoons and play games and have fun and make fun of each other and do
Yep.
all those things. And it's not, um, it's not doom and gloom all the time. I did see, so this is the reason I said before we start recording about the original one. So the 2008 short is only like 20 minutes, and I'm really interested. I want to see it. I've been scouring. I can't find any way to watch it. I tried YouTube and some just internet searches, so I'll keep looking. But um, what's funny is one actor actually made it into both, and that was the actor who played Marcus.
Oh,
He
really?
played the same character in both. He had
That's
a
cool.
different name in the 2008 one. They changed it, but I thought that was interesting. But I really want to see it. It's got oh, what's his name? I had it up. It doesn't matter. But yeah, that looks interesting. I kind of want to see because it looks like they kind of changed the main character from a man to a woman and some other things. So anyway,
So let me ask
Brant.
you this. Do you
Yep.
know who made the short, why they made the short, and why it turned into a movie?
I don't. I know the name. I can read the name, Destin, whatever the guy who did it.
It's
But
the
no, I
same
don't
guy
know the
that did the
background.
movie,
Yeah.
right? So he worked in a place like this. And
Okay.
he took his own experience and was like, "Hey, I want to write a story about it because of my experience." Wrote the short, and it was pretty well received. And then he sold it as a larger movie, so that's why we have what we have in front of us.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I did not know that. I didn't look that deep into it. Um, so anyway, so I like that they were succinct. They were to the point. They kept it light for the most part. There was some heavy stuff in there when they needed heavy stuff, obviously. Um, but it was the way I thought they handled it well. They didn't. Um, it it was uncomfortable enough to make you actually think and empath and sympathize, I guess. Um, but not so heavy that you go away like hating life. It's not like and I did read somewhere that they cut out some stuff because the director
Oh,
thought it was a little heavy. There's like
oh,
20 minutes of footage they cut out that would have, he said, just made you depressed at the end. So maybe that's good. But yeah, no, I can talk some more along the way since I went first here. I won't take everything, but overall really liked it. Got some other stuff I can say, but I'll wait to get some other people going here. So
yeah, same. There's a couple things I want to bring up, but let's let everybody
yeah.
chime in first. We'll go to Dan next. Dan, your thoughts on short term 12?
Okay. Yeah, I really like this movie. But like Matt said, I was thinking it was going to be a sad kind of depressing type movie, but it was uplifting, I thought. I thought Brie Larson was awesome, and she did a really,
Yeah.
really good job in this movie. And I read this was kind of her, you know, great coming out role, her her first lead, and she was really good. I like the way they used Remy's character, Nate.
Nate.
He asked a lot of questions, about the facility, what they do here, what they do there, those kind of things that the audience is thinking about while they're watching this. So I use him to answer questions.
So Dan, let me interrupt you right there because I was going to ask this question anyway. Do you think Nate was there for some kind of comic relief / make you feel uncomfortable, or to make you feel like you could be in this room also? Like, were you supposed to kind of relate to Nate as he was going through it?
Yeah, I think the new guy, you were supposed to like relate to him. Like you guys said, you would all want to do this every other week. So
Dan's
like,
got golfing to do. He's got to be on
yeah,
the
that's
course.
right. Yep. Saturday, I will be on the golf course while you guys are working at the facility. Um, but yeah, the kind of the ticking time bomb throughout this whole movie is whether Grace is going to keep her baby or not. I think that's what kind of leads to a lot of her emotional stuff that she goes through during the movie. But yeah, Mark, or not Marcus, her boyfriend. What was his name?
Mason.
Mason. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I mean, he seems like a awesome guy for what he went through with the foster parents and everything. He seems like he's in a great place and
Yeah,
helps her out, and he's really a rock for her to hold on to there. But yeah, all three of those characters, Jaden, Marcus, and Grace, really have to unravel during the movie and then build themselves back up after their kind of fall there. Um, what else we got here? I'll stop there. But yeah, really good movie. I liked it. Had never seen it before. I'd never heard of it before.
Mhm.
And that's kind of one of the reasons I'm in this movie club, to get some movies I don't know about, some hidden gems out there, and really like this one.
I'm glad. I thought I watched this a long time ago while researching movies to pick, and I wanted to pick this several times, and I just kept almost like pulling your punches because I was like, this is some pretty serious shit here, and I don't know. Every now and then we get through a couple of serious movies, and it's like, nah, we need a, as Melo would put it, we need a palate cleanser, and so it just never kind of fit in there. So I'm glad so far that you guys like this. I'm going to tell you a quote, Dan, that I had written down, that the most important character in this movie is a girl that's been abused by her father and is taking it out on everyone around her. And I don't mean Jaden. Like the relationship between Jaden and Grace is a pretty important thing in this movie, and they kind of both end up bringing it out for each other, which ends up being a really good thing. I like the way you put that Marcus and Jaden and Grace had to sort of have a, all of them had particularly bad moments that they had to get past. That's kind of a cool thing about this movie. So let's keep it rolling. Melo, I'll go to you. Your thoughts on Short Term 12?
Yeah. So I'd never heard of this at all. But it's fine. I mean, everybody's talking about it. It's really, really well done. And my only hesitation, like both Matt and Dan were like, yeah, I really like this movie. And it's one of those where it's, I don't know, typically that phrase is reserved for something that I feel better about. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why I kind of shifted to really, really well done. Again, I definitely, so watching this instantly, both at Canelan and Dixon, different students, a little shocked. I mean, granted, it's been a little while and I'm older, but I don't remember all the names, but I definitely remember the kids. But that, some of this stuff resonated with. The second thing I wrote, Tim doesn't get to pick any more Brie Larson movies.
Yeah.
Not because it's two. No. It's because she's a very handsome woman. And these last two movies do not reflect that in any way.
Agreed. Yeah, she's, stringy hair and depressed. Yeah.
So just having fun with that. No, really great.
I'm not past a handsome woman yet. Nice phrase. Nice phrase right
Thanks. Really good young cast. You don't always get that when you get, you know, child actors. It can kind of be hit or miss, but I thought everybody really, really did well. Lewis, right? Is that his name? The
Luis.
one,
Yeah,
Luis.
Luis.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like. You asked about the goldfish. I say yes because of that kid's performance. You know what I mean? Like that. I know that kid, and
Mm-hmm.
anyway, um, people with trauma helping people with trauma. Just kind of, I don't know. You, you see that a lot where that's why people decide to get into this type of vocation. That there were people that meant something to them when they were going through something, and so they want to be that person to others. Yeah, I wrote something has to happen with Rami Malek. Like, I just kept waiting. I'm like, there's no way they're wasting him. This guy,
Right.
and they 100% did because he wasn't anybody yet. Movie hits.
I had the same thing when I watched this. I had already seen Bohemian Rhapsody, and I was like, "He's in here. It's got to be okay. It's got to be okay."
Well,
So next scene,
even kind of from the character itself too, not only being the vehicle for the audience to resonate with or get the exposition, or I mean that's the opening scene. That's what they're doing, right? Is just
Yep.
But I thought there was going to be something else.
What do you think he found in the couch, Ryan? When he was cleaning,
he was
and he
vacuuming.
found something in the couch, and he pocketed it. We know it's the toy that he gave.
It
the
ends
kid.
up being a toy.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I thought he found money or something, and he was stealing it. And I'm like, oh, here it is. This is we're
Oh,
gonna,
yeah.
there's
Yeah,
gonna
I
be
didn't know
some
what it was.
drama with him. There's gonna be some story here.
I thought I misremembered. I'm like, wasn't it the toy? But
Yeah, no. But like when he was doing it, I'm like, oh, what do you? The toy didn't cross my mind. Like I was like, oh, it's money. It's something valuable from one of the kids, and he's gonna steal it.
I thought he was going to get hurt or accidentally hurt one of the kids because he wasn't as experienced or something like that. Yeah.
Anything.
So the movie hits the feels when they did the birthday cards and the foster parent toast.
Yeah.
Like those were. I wrote down, and I don't. So again, 2 weeks ago, I wrote pretty calm reaction from Jaden. I don't know exactly what I meant. I'm pretty sure that's when she just sees Grace in her home or in her dad's home. Like I would, that would be, I would think be pretty shocking. But anyway, it was like, I just thought of that. She says,
she's just like a little extreme, don't you think? Like she's not like, hey, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Hey, nice to see you. Hey, why do you have a baseball bat? She goes, pretty extreme, don't you think? That's all she's got.
To see somebody standing with a baseball bat over, well, there's anyway. She wrote, or she said, "You're going to be a really good mom." I was like, Lakeith Stanfield, that's who plays Marcus, and he was the one who was in, like Matt said, that was in the short. But he was in Uncut Gems. I was trying to think of what else. He was the other guy who worked in the place with him, and he was upset because he wanted his watches.
It was his watches. Yeah. Oh, okay.
He was in Get Out also, wasn't he?
He was in Get Out for sure.
Okay.
That was my connection to the movie. Is he's the one that says Get Out.
Okay.
Knives Out too.
Oh, that's what I was going to say about this though. In between, like after doing the short, he got out of acting. He was done. And then they said, we're going to make this a movie. We want you to be in it. And he was like, all right, fine. And then obviously now he's had a career.
He's great.
Yeah. But isn't that crazy? Like he could have just been done. 20 days of filming for this, which I guess makes sense. I mean, it's mostly one location, but
yeah. That's still pretty impressive though.
Yeah. Trying to think if I had.
Yeah, the budget was pretty small, wasn't it?
I'm sure.
Oh, I didn't look that up. Where's Hilty when we need?
I know Hilty. Where are you,
Matt? Get on it.
Yeah, just again, really well done. Lot of I'm trying to think of, I guess the best, it felt genuine. So his experience, I believe that he, conveyed that well in what he wanted to the audience for anybody who hasn't. I haven't done anything, where it's overnight or they have their own room or anything like that. But you know, young people that are going through some stuff. You know, I think they definitely conveyed that well from all sides.
Yeah. As educators, we've seen some shit. Like we've seen some real shit. So there's nothing in here that's surprising to us who have been dealing with kids at this sort of age for a while. Let me bring this up. I don't want to cut off Aaron or Mike's comments or Hilty if he gets here and rob them of their talking points. But you bring up Brie Larson. Um, one thing that I noted was I thought it was really odd or mentionable that you kept seeing scenes of her in the shower or the tub, where she's that's the it seems like that's the only place where she feels she can really let out her emotions. Like it seems like some kind of a refuge for her to be able to go, and in the shower she can be her own self, because she can't seem to be her own self in front of Mason. You know, but then you find out in the big reveal when she's outside with Jaden that her father made her take showers with him, and then eventually, got her pregnant. And there's another little Easter egg, if you guys will, that when she originally she's in the clinic, and the lady is like, "Have you been pregnant before?" She's just like, "Just the one time." And then she explains it later, and you're just, holy shit,
Yeah.
wow. Um, but I guess my point is, like it's just weird that that's a place, the only place she feels she can find some kind of solace or she can release her emotions is a place that was such a traumatic experience for her. That seemed
Yeah.
odd to me.
Yeah. Even in the scene where they find out her dad's gonna get paroled,
Hmm.
um, the scrubbing is what got me. Like
That's right.
she's in there, she's like scrubbing, right? That's a response to how she's feeling. So I see what you're saying, but I also think it's kind of like half and half for her. Like it's a place where I'm trying to feel clean, but I have to just scrub myself raw. And when
Yeah.
she puts what got me for real was when she put it over her mouth, when she put it over her face, and she's like
Washcloth over
breathing.
her
Yeah,
face.
that
Yeah.
just like I felt that
Yeah.
for her. Like regardless of I've never actually been through that, but I felt that for her. It was crazy.
Yeah. I think Melo's making a good point here. You feel the realism of this story.
Yeah.
It's hard not to. Aaron, we'll go to you. Your thoughts on short term 12.
I like how Ryan phrased it. Where I mean, I don't want to say, "Ooh, I love this movie" about
Yeah.
you know all this horrific stuff. So, um,
Thanks for making me the jerk, guys. I appreciate that.
I'm not saying that, but
It's
shoes
hard
and
to go
fitness.
first in this discussion.
Um, well, I mean, I whatever you think, Matt. I'm
It's
sure
okay. I'm
Hilty's
just kidding.
way worse. Whatever Hilty's thinking is way worse because he's horrible, apparently,
That's right.
according to Tim.
Well,
No, happy to be in this movie group. Didn't wouldn't have heard of this, never heard of it. So many times this has come up. There's so many things. I mean, I'm even to where like I'll be sitting at home and it's like, oh, do I want to put on reruns of something I've seen 100 times? No, you know what? I've heard of this. I'm gonna go look. So I mean, it's actually affecting you know my outside life. Um,
that's
just in
great.
trying to, and I'm not gonna say, oh, challenge myself or anything like
Hmm.
that, but just get out of the same routine of watching, that '70s show and Scrubs and the same old reruns. You know, figuring out, trying to find something out there that I've heard people talking about. So, but this wasn't even anything I'd ever heard about. I've never heard anybody mention it. Didn't know it existed. But man, I'm glad I do. Um, Started watching it today. My wife, you guys, is in the education industry too. Um, she didn't want anything to do with it once we saw, started watching. She's like, not today. I can't,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go full closer, whatever. She ended up watching the end or being in the living room with me, with her iPad and headphones on. And when it was all over, when they tell the last story, that's great, almost too great. I still believe it. But I'm going to come back around to that in a second. I turned around because I was laying on the couch. She was kind of behind me, and I was like, "You should have watched it." And like, she doesn't have her iPad anymore, and her headphones are off. And she's like, "I watched the last 20 minutes." I was like, "Well, you got all the good stuff."
Yeah.
But no, it was really good. I kept thinking, well, one, wouldn't it, because of what we've already discussed, you have previously picking a Brie Larson movie that was
Room.
fairly traumatic before.
Yeah.
Excellent, but traumatic. Like, what if this was a prequel? What if she gets kidnapped on her
Jesus.
bike while she's pregnant?
Oh God.
And this becomes the room, not the room. But anyway, so not funny, but other things that, at watching it, not taking me out of it or anything, but just thinking more about the movie itself and the production, I did think this is being very well done. Money's being very well spent. The cast is very small. The locations are very intimate. You could just, and I didn't look up what it cost or, if it made money or not. Just that these kind of movies, I hope they keep existing.
Yeah.
With all the Marvel stuff out there, with all the Star Wars stuff out there, all the animation, you know, this is really good stuff, and it doesn't have to be, $400 million to make it. You can tell a good story with 15 people, and some extras. It's I thought it was really well done.
Let's jump in here for just a second because I know Matt's got these numbers. Matt, what are the numbers?
The estimated budget was 400,000,
Oh
which is
man.
like nothing,
That's
and
nothing.
worldwide gross was 1.6 million.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it did okay.
That's
It
a
did
win.
okay.
So I will tell you, I know this. They did live casting for, like Mason and Grace and Nate and Jessica. I think the other girl's name is. We don't get to see her very often, but she's there, and you could like I feel like she's part of the crew. The kids, however, they did that with like an open Zoom call, and they just picked kids that like online looked like good enough. And I think that's great because the kids were fantastic.
Yeah.
Like they were the most realistic part, just them in the background, either crying or playing or jumping rope or whatever they were doing, felt very real to me.
Or
So,
running around with the American flag as a cape.
well,
Sammy, my
that's
boy,
fantastic.
Sammy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that whole thing, even they knew all you had to just hold them for a little bit,
let
and
it
then
pass.
yeah,
Let it
I
pass.
think he was just wanted the attention. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, because he ran backwards. Like he wasn't trying to leave.
He did. He
Right.
turned back around.
At the end, he turned back. I
Yeah.
think that's just his game. Yeah, I'm
He's
just gonna.
juking him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aaron, sorry, back to you.
No, the other only point that I was making, I know that Brie Larson and her boyfriend, they're older. They do explain that both of them have traumatic pasts. Um, but to me, it's like, is this, and not in a bad way, just, and not even an epiphany. Is this where we're at now with coming of age movies? Like we had like Breakfast Club and John Hughes and all that, and they would throw in a St. Elmo's Fire that was kind of deep every once in a while. But like, is this what the kids have now? This and because the girl who played who was the new girl who came in? Name started with a J.
Jaden.
Jaden. Um, she's in, and I guess that's more of a goofy one where she's going off to going off to college, and her and her friend, I think it's called Booksmart. You don't have any idea what I'm talking about.
Nope.
Her and her friend have, not gone to parties and all this in high school. And they find out their senior year that everybody who like they kind of avoided because they wanted to get into Princeton or Yale or something, they're all going to like Harvard on a lacrosse scholarship, and all these people who they think are just absolute screw ups. So they're going to take their last couple weeks and just party their asses off and get in all kinds of trouble. So, and saying it out loud, that is more of like what I would consider a coming of age movie. But there's just more of this deep storytelling stuff with characters with real traumatic pasts, not like you know Breakfast Club and stuff like that, where we don't know about Allison's troubled past or what she's done and not done in that in Breakfast Club. So she might have some trauma, but the rest of them, and I guess the guy who blew up his elephant trunk lamp, um, I guess he had maybe
Anthony
brought
Michael
in a
Hall.
firearm to school, but it was a flare gun.
Anthony Michael Hall. Yeah.
So, but it's like little, I don't want to say goofy trauma, but it's not the same. It's not the same at all. Where this is like cutters, and you got suicide attempts, and just it's like deep, deep shit. And it's like, wow, these kids, they're growing up really fast. I don't know. And I don't know if I would even consider this, like I said, because of the ages and stuff of the actual main characters, if it is a coming of age. The pregnancy, and I don't know. That just kind of crossed my mind as I was watching it. Like, is this what high school kids have now as their movies? As far as that's not superheroes and shit like that. But I don't know, and not to get super deep. Really like the movie. Go ahead, Ryan.
So I was with you all the way, and I was trying to, like think about it, and I think what I landed on is the 80s. There were so many less movies made, and it was just like it was before the indie movie thing, and that's why what sold was Breakfast Club, as opposed to, I'm sure, there were stories like this, but just never saw the light of day.
Right. And, there were probably kids deeper than me, that were reading books, and, they were they were finding stories other places. Like, it had to get made into a movie for me to enjoy it.
I'm thinking the closest
TV miniseries.
I'm thinking the closest we got was like Heathers and Reality Bites. Like, that's the closest we got.
You know what popped in my head was Mask.
Oh, Mask.
It's pretty good, yeah.
That was.
I mean, it wasn't necessarily like, definitely trauma, but not like, you know what I mean, like a different type.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So I mean, I guess there was stuff. I just kept thinking about, and I'm looking at the kids, I guess, and that's what pigeonholed me into thinking, just God, these kids, they have it rough, but it's not all kids.
I also, the other thing I thought of when you were talking about it, though, that we're at the age now that we see the adults in this movie as coming of age. You know what I mean?
Right.
As
100%.
opposed to when we were that.
Well, yeah, I have kids their age.
Right.
I
right.
have kids getting, entering the workforce, and one's a counselor. My oldest, so not in this setting, but if more of a court ordered kind of setting, he works with those people. But
I mean, four of us have been in education for a long time, and we've seen some shit, right? Like, I've had kids bring knives into class and pull it on another kid. I've had drug deals going on in my classroom, and even worse, I've had my Nate moments when I was younger. And any kid who ended up in a better place as a result of your experience with them, you just take it as a giant win. And I mean, that's some of this subject matter is very real. I will just say that from my experience. Um, Mike Wilden, let's hear your thoughts on short term 12.
Aaron, real quick, the last 2 weeks, my comfort rewatch binge has been That 70 Show. So it's kind of fun hearing you bring that up.
Yeah, nice.
I love this movie. I'm just gonna say everybody's hesitating to say I don't know. No, fuck it. I love this movie. It, I mean, it kept me. It was well done enough that like it really kept me engaged. I was really invested enough that when Grace finds Marcus, sitting there in Luis's room, and she goes and checks on Luis, and then finds the glass, from the tank. Uh, I actually like physically like hit my couch in frustration because I was like, oh, damn it, because you got to root for Marcus. You can't help it. You can tell you know, he's he doesn't want to be in this situation. You just want him to get better and everything.
So, Mike,
Um,
when that happened, what do you think he had done? Like, had you seen when
oh,
he's in?
I thought he did exactly what he did.
Okay, see,
Like I for a split second when she went to check on Luis, I was like, why is she checking on Luis? Oh, she thinks that he attacked Luis. Like
that
that hadn't come to my mind
that was I
until
was like, oh, he's going to prison instead of getting out of here.
Yeah.
You know, this is his
So
way to
yeah.
not ever leave.
yeah,
So
I it's
I
such a powerful scene because Marcus doesn't want to go into adulthood. He doesn't want to leave. I mean, that's very obvious from what we see. And so it's an escapism thing for him to attempt a suicide, but also he's doing it right in Luis's fucking door. Like, this is how much I hate you. I want you to think that you made me kill myself. Oh my God, is that a scene?
I
Oof.
I
I'm
I
glad you
thought
brought
about
that up
that too
because I
after
had to
that
get that off
scene.
my chest.
Yeah. I thought about that after that scene too. Like, man, exactly what you said, Tim. Like he chose his spot on
Yeah.
purpose there. Um, but for all that reason, I really like the end of this movie. Um, with the story about Marcus. They're telling a story about some other kid that you don't see at the beginning, but at the end, the kid that they're telling them about is Marcus, and you've gotten to know Marcus. You've gotten to experience his struggles, his journey, and so you get to hear that he's doing well on the other side of it, and it's so heartwarming to hear it. And for everything we've been saying about how uncomfortable a lot of the subject matter is and how uncomfortable this movie is, which it is, it's actually very uplifting, once you watch the full thing. The end of this movie makes it a very uplifting movie despite all of the emotional trauma and the very difficult scenes. I came out of watching this movie feeling better than when I went in.
Hmm.
This wasn't like Foxcatcher or Midsummer where I just like I don't feel good. I wish I wouldn't have just watched that. I appreciate the art behind it, but no, this is different. And I do appreciate the fact that they addressed all of the emotional trauma for the different characters in very realistic ways. Everybody here has said how great all the kids did, as far as their roles. I thought everybody did great in this movie. I quick shout out to Stephanie Beatrice, not for necessarily her performance in this movie, but I just love her from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so I was excited to see her here. But I thought everybody did fantastic, acting wise in this. And I um I do love Jaden's sarcasm as kind of just like that's her armor. And I would say, for the shock of seeing Grace standing there with a bat, if I'm gonna make that work in my head as to why she'd react that way, my guess would be, well, maybe she saw her from down the hall and had a silent holy shit moment and then had a second to process it and decided, all right,
Yeah.
I'm just going to calmly walk over there and make some smart ass comment to her. That's my guess.
That's a good
Because if she
point.
had just suddenly seen that does seem like a pretty interesting reaction.
That's a good
Um,
point. We only
Yeah,
know that that's when she chose to say something. We don't know how long she stood there. That's a really good point.
agreed.
um, and I just love that scene with them both taking swings at the car. I just, because you feel it. You really feel them releasing a lot of just angst that they've needed something like this for a long time. And obviously it's not a cure all, but it's like they finally let out some of that emotion on some of that anger that they've been feeling over everything. And I mean, I love the relationship with Jaden and Grace, and it's there is something to be said about like, Grace is, I don't want to say making this about her, but it's like, somebody said masking your trauma with other people's trauma kind of thing. Um, but she hadn't addressed that trauma. She clearly hadn't, the entire time she's with Mason for 3 years, and he's like, "Hey, let me the fuck in," and she can't. She won't talk to anybody. Her therapist she won't talk to about it, and suddenly this kid comes along that she can relate to, she can empathize with so much because it was her, basically. Uh, and it's exactly what she needs for better or worse, and it does help Jaden. It's a mutually beneficial thing, I think, ultimately in the movie. you know we're still talking a movie here, but I do love the very realistic portrayal of just emotional trauma at a young age and how it can affect you when you get older, when it comes to the adults in the room, in this movie. Yeah, I this is great. Great pick. I'd never heard of it before. Had no idea what it was. I didn't even know who was in it until I hit play and I saw Brie Larson. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Wait, this is another Brie Larson movie. Wow, Tim's
Tim
really
did
got
it
a Brie,
again.
Brie Larson thing going on here.
It's
Um,
not. It's really not.
hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, good pick. It's
Real quick, Mike, you talked about the story at the end. I was gonna say I really like the asymmetry of that, right? Like
That.
the story in the beginning ended awful, and like Grace just drops it, right? Like as a bomb. Like, oh, by the way, we found him dead in the bushes, and
Yep.
it's like, what the hell? Like that was just kind of out of nowhere. And then the story at the end is a happy story. I love that asymmetry. Like it can be good. It's not all bad. It can be good for them. I like that a lot.
Well, I think what they're
well,
saying there,
and
Matt, is that they start this movie with a story and they end this movie with a story. Both of them interrupted by Sammy taking off and running like a
Yeah.
badass, by the way. But I think the point of that is this is life. Like this is what life is like in this place. Like this, it's not going to change. We'll still tell another story 2 years from now, and then have to run down another kid, and
we're
it doesn't just
working
automatically get
through.
better for everybody.
I think that's also a metaphor for dealing with trauma, because that's not a one time you fix it and you're good. That's a lifelong battle that you have to work through, in order to deal with that kind of stuff. But also, in Matt, the way you said it's like the first story's a sad story and the end is happy. It's like, yeah, this never ends, but it can get better.
Right.
And I think there's a very powerful message in just that metaphor overall. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed this. Good pick.
Thank
Do we
you.
have a Hilty or no? No.
He's he's being a dad. He's being a dad. Uh, as is necessary at times. I'm sure several of you guys can understand on a
Real
level
quick,
that I can't.
Lakeith Stanfield. We were talking about some of the movies, and he also played Snoop in Straight Out of Compton. I just
Oh,
looked
really?
at like this guy.
Love that.
I
Oh
didn't
my
even
god!
recognize him,
He was
and
gonna
now it's
quit
like,
acting after that short,
yeah,
and look at him.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Wow.
Um, Mike, you brought up Jaden and Grace, and I think that's the most important relationship in this movie. Um, I noticed, and I'm gonna guess that you guys did well as well. It's just kind of worth bringing up when Grace gets asked questions from Mason about, you know, opening up to him, or when Grace gets asked questions from her therapist toward the end of the movie, Grace acts exactly like Jaden acts when Jaden shows up. Like they have the exact same mannerisms of no eye contact, fucking around with your nails, and giving like nonverbal shake your head no responses. They are very similar in a lot of ways throughout the whole thing, and I think that that is subtly done really nicely for this movie to make you feel what they're going through. And you know, we're dudes that have gotten through life pretty good, and we have our own struggles and whatever. But I think pretty much all of us look at stuff and go, "Well, I shouldn't have picked that. That was a mistake in my life." But there's tomorrow, and I'll just do this tomorrow. We're pretty good at making decisions and living with them. But people who struggle, feeling like the world is against them and life is against them. Um, it's just so hard to relate to that kind of thing, and you can see that. You can feel that in this movie, and it's what I really like about it. So, I was nervous to pick this, guys, because I thought subject matter wise about fucking stuff with dads and daughters, it just is terrible. I'm glad that you guys seem to have responded to it pretty well. Does anybody have anything else to say about the movie? I know especially guys who went first said I might have some other stuff. Anybody got anything else for short
You
term
were
12?
you were talking about earlier about you were like delaying picking this for a long time
Yeah.
because of the subject matter, because we'd have some serious stuff and then a palate cleanser, and I just went straight to the Oscars nominated category where we had freaking Amadeus, Manchester by the Sea,
Mm.
the Whale, and The Father for 4 weeks in a row. And then I got to me, and I was gonna pick like a pretty serious movie too. When I first got that, I was like ready. And then we watched those four, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it, but I'm glad it came up because this is good. I'm sorry. That's all I got.
No, that's great. Echoing Aaron's sentiment, it has been great being part of this movie group because we push each other to watch things that we wouldn't watch. And all of you guys have had different things that you've picked that have made us watch. I'm just thinking Matt picked some anime things that were out of left field for me that I never would have watched, and I enjoyed every one of them. And so, thank you guys for going down this little rabbit hole of emotional trauma with me. I like this movie a lot. If I'm ranking it out of five, I'm going to give it a real solid four. The acting is fantastic, and good for this guy for telling this story to let people feel something. It's always good when you watch a movie and you feel something. I think so. Let's
Yeah,
put a yep.
I was just gonna say, I think you mentioned it before, but the teachers, former and current teachers in the room. I think I was gonna say, we've all had a Jaden. You may not
Mhm.
know exactly what that trauma is in their life, but you've all had that kid, the sarcastic, like clearly, covering for something and just trying to get to know them. And it can be hard sometimes, obviously, especially, like being a male, if the trauma is, something of that degree. Grace maybe was the best thing for her, but it really makes you think about stuff like that, about how many kids have had things they haven't really talked about, but you've somehow helped them. It's kind of a light in the darkness sometimes when you're having a bad week,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Last question. I'm going to go with the lightning round one more time. Is Grace a hero or a victim? Mela?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Dan, hero or victim or both?
Yeah, I agree. She's a hero for helping the kids the way she does, but she's also a victim.
Yeah. Aaron?
Neither.
Okay.
I think she's just human. I mean, she's doing what she's got to do.
I yeah, I kind of feel that. Like this is her handling her own trauma in her own way, and
Because I don't
she's
think
a
she'd like to be called a victim.
yeah, yeah. Matt?
Yeah, I mean that sounds great. I mean, it's neither. She's a human that went through something and doesn't realize until she meets Jaden that she needs to take her own advice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mike?
I wasn't sure how I was going to answer this until Aaron said neither. I didn't know that was an option, but it's clear it's definitely neither.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I'm kind of the heroic side of things. I do love how all the are they counselors? What would you call the main four adults?
He called him he had a name for him, a line. You're like front line
Yeah.
or line.
It sounded like a line cook. Like
Yeah.
he made it sound
Yeah,
like, hey, you're just
They
here
were
to wash
supposed
dishes,
to
man.
keep them safe. That
right.
was
Keep
But
them safe. Yeah.
I love the way that they all interacted. Like they closely like were intertwined with the kids. Like Lucas has the rap he wrote down, and Mason's like, "Hey, give me some lyrics," and sat down, gave him the beat and everything, and listened
Hey,
to
just
it.
so you
And
know, there's a lot of
all
fucks.
Yeah, well, yeah. And he's like, I'll deal with it. And just the way that all of them just even Nate, I guess to a certain extent, but like they all are at least trying to sit down and actually like talk to the kids and get to know them and actually, it's not like they're just, all right, babysitting, whatever. Okay, go chase the kid. All of them are really trying to make a difference. And I think that part of it is heroic for that scene. But as far as Grace's character, for the sake of your question, neither. She's
So
human.
they're
I
so
agree.
so they're more like the old people who show up at the pound to pet the kittens. That's what their job really is.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm, who's on Team Aaron with that one? Old people petting
Nobody.
kittens.
Didn't think
uh,
about it like that, but okay.
I got 1 out of 11. Well, I didn't. I mean, they clearly weren't counselors, because of what she said. And I mean,
right.
obviously, she had been there at least 3 years, and the actual counselor or social worker, whoever he was, respected her and her opinion. He knew, knows at least some of what she's been through. But yeah, they're just, keep the kids safe.
You
Can I
mentioned
can I
Marcus.
ask you just an
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask an opinion what everybody thought of Nate because he was so awkward. Like thinking back to when they say, yeah, for the first few weeks or whatever, you kind of say no, and like those girls go over to ask him to jump rope, really sweet, and he's like, oh,
We're not.
no, and he
Yeah.
says it like kind of like harshly, and they just droop their head and walk away. It's just the most like, oh, and
And that
Well,
Jessica's
did
like, dude, that's not what we
that's not what we
meant.
meant.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
not what we meant. That's not what we meant. That's great.
Ugh.
Um, you, Mike, you brought up Marcus and his rap. Um, that's one of the most impactful things for me in this movie is um he's got this tough exterior, and a lot of kids do that, right? I mean, we've seen that. Everybody has seen that, and he's hurting on the inside for sure. And what he's really letting it out right there. And I had written it down at one point, and I can't find it in my notes, but something about so you know what it's like to not know what a normal life is like, or whatever. That was really impactful for me. I did have a question, and I think this is just for Aaron because I'm gonna guess he and I are the ones that tend to mist up and cry at movies more than the rest of you guys. Dan has no soul whatsoever. He doesn't cry at movies. Um, Aaron, did you mist up at anything in this movie? And I will tell you where I did. I did at Mason's family thing with knowing that he was a foster parent and he was doing the toast. I did messed up a little bit. I'm gonna admit to it. Aaron, did you lose it at any time in this movie?
I didn't lose it, but I definitely I didn't mark down in my journal
Uh,
each time, but yeah, there was more than once.
okay.
The but so there's specific things that get to me like that, and it's most of it is usually selflessness. I guess when I see in somebody what I want, like God, I wish I was more like that.
Hmm.
Or like just you see somebody doing something selfless. Um, so it was a specific line during the toast. It wasn't like the event. It wasn't the fact that he was a foster kid.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, everything good in my life is because of you.
Yeah.
It's like, you know,
Yeah.
so it wasn't him. It was the foster parents.
Right.
So,
Yep.
but
Yep.
yeah, stuff like that.
Okay,
Malo
so
kind of
for the
wants
record,
Malo kind of wants to admit that he cried too. He kind of wants to admit he's not going to do it, but he kind of wants to.
I made sure I held back at the birthday card.
It's all right. We're a bunch of dudes watching movies. It's okay.
yeah, for the record, I messed up a lot at movies too. So like um I I think the part that got me the most was when I don't know why, but it was when they're doing the ultrasound and
Ooh.
like you're not sure you think they're in there for the
Ooh.
abortion appointment and then surprise it's actually the ultrasound and like so when she starts crying, that's when I kind of started tearing up
I
because,
get that.
and that's what this movie did so well is make you feel for the characters and want them to be okay and want them to be happy, because then you see that as something that's bringing her to tears in joy, like, oh my god, look at this, this isn't, she's breaking down, and that just from that connection I was like, oh boy.
What was cool about that scene was that as soon as she saw the heartbeat and started crying, she turned right to Mason and kind of buried her head in his chest. And for the entire movie, we are led to believe she doesn't open up to him ever about anything. But in that moment of, uh, you know, uh, emotion, like she just had to turn to him, which I felt that one. I felt that one too. Dan, did you cry at any point in this movie?
I did not. Um,
Have you ever cried at any movie?
Have you cried at
the
any movie that we've
I
watched
would
in
say the soft
220
yeah.
movies?
for Dan
Okay.
probably is the most emotional.
yeah, I've cried a couple times.
Okay.
But probably the biggest shocking scene for me was her octopus story. I was just like,
Oh,
wow.
yeah. How did
That
we
was
not talk about that?
that was pretty shocking.
Well,
Yeah.
and what I mean, great story, but a 16-year-old coming up with that whole metaphor. It's like, holy, what a what a creative soul, or what a
Mm-hmm.
talent
Mm-hmm.
she is or will be.
Yeah, and it
Birthday
kind of
card thing
shows
too.
it shows just how deeply wound her protective mechanism is. Like you got to get into layer after layer after layer to get to the bottom of the root of what's bothering this kid. Like you can tell with that story. Um, all right. Well,
Birthday card thing got me too.
Yeah.
When
oh
when
yeah.
all the yeah,
And the
that
fact
I
that
that was
he went in, and you don't know why he's throwing the box of construction paper down and the pipe cleaners and everything. Everybody grab a piece, and you don't know what's coming, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
he's been here a while. He's seen this done. He knows it works. It's the right thing to do. Selfless act kind of stuff. So that was another good one. Before you wrap it up, Tim,
Okay.
when she was standing over the dad with the baseball bat,
Mm-hmm.
we see the dad laying in the bed, and we get like almost a full shot of his face. Did anybody think they recognized him? Did he look? I immediately did, and there's no way it could be this guy. So this 80s actor, does he look familiar to anybody?
He's showing us your phone.
I thought for sure. Well, I wouldn't know his name. Rob Leibman, Leibman.
Okay.
He's an 80s actor. He's usually plays like a lieutenant in some military whatever that the kids are screwing up, or the young adults are screwing up. But I thought it was him. I'm like, there's no way it could be him. And then when I tried to look it up, because it doesn't show up in the cast, when I tried to look up her dad, it actually AI, because AI is fucking horrible, says it's the guy who played Mason. And there's no way it was Mason laying in the bed. So
They gave him a haircut and he just kind of
right,
laid there in the bed.
Oh man, I wish it was Mason. I want it to be Mason so bad
Yeah.
now.
well, that'd be some deep stuff right there. When I
Well, they only had $400,000 for the budget, so throw Mason in there with a haircut.
No, but to have Brie Larson's character looking down at this guy,
Right.
like she's
Yes.
about, like that'd be some trippy shit if
Yeah.
they had done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Skywalker Invader's mask, man. That's
All right. Well, I'm glad this landed on its feet and you guys enjoyed this. I was very nervous to pick this for the group and held back for quite some time, as I said before. So let's move on. And we move on to the next pick. Melo, it is your pick. And the theme this time around, once again, is dealer's choice or make a connection to any one of the movies that everybody picked in the last round. What do you have for us today?
so I did. I immediately had a dealer's choice thought, but then went back through and trying to see if there was a connection or something else I wanted to do instead. And if you're keeping up with the story, maybe it's fitting that we've had a week before this reveal, because Gene Hackman passed away.
Yeah.
And so just like my first pick with Ian Holm and Big Night, I'm going with The French Connection and I don't know if you guys know the story or the details are coming out, but it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
What has happened to Mr. Hackman and his wife and all of that. But yeah, this is one I've actually I know of. I've seen certain scenes. I don't think I've ever seen all the way through.
Ooh.
And there's something else that like I'm pretty sure I knew at some point, but I didn't really connect or didn't realize until I was looking this up. And then it's not a contest, but I did look at different scores of stuff. So French Connection has a sequel and is actually really highly rated as well. But anyway, so I wanted to go with French Connection. I knew I had to do something with Gene Hackman, and I didn't have an obvious connection to anything else, so we'll just call it dealer's choice. But I still feel good.
The connection is the connection.
Yeah,
There you
indeed. How many of you guys have seen The French Connection?
Get out of here!
Come on.
Man, I think I have, but yeah, it's been a
I
long
know of it.
time.
I know scenes.
Yep.
I can
Yeah.
picture him saying things in it, but I do not believe I've seen the movie.
Oh,
Okay.
so I like this because you think of Gene Hackman, and of course Hoosiers comes up in your mind, or for God's sake, Superman.
Superman.
Superman Crimson Tide,
or
Unforgiven.
Unforgiven. But this is him young and
Frankenstein.
energetic, and this is a really good pick.
Enemy of
What'd
the
you
States.
say, Mike? I missed it.
You mean Frankenstein? Did anybody say that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just him young and energetic, and it's a good performance. So, all right, the movie is The French Connection. We'll see you guys next week.
That'll do it for this episode of the BTB Movie Club podcast. Thank you as always for listening. We know we enjoyed ourselves. We hope you did too. Have yourself a great week. We are partnered with the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.